Hey, what's up you guys, it's Connor, and today I'm going to be starting my 2017 reading wrap-ups with books 1 through 10. I know I said I was going to do each 5 books, but I got a little bit busy, and I was reading a lot of graphic novels and manga and stuff like that, so I ended up getting to 10 a little bit sooner than I was anticipating, so I'm just going to go over the first 10 today. The first thing I read in 2017 is White Sand by Brandon Sanderson. This is a Cosmere graphic novel that follows a different planet in a different solar system than any of the other books that he's published in the Cosmere so far. This one is set on the planet of Taldane, and it follows these sand masters that are able to control sand using energy and body water to accomplish different goals. The main character, Kenton, can only control a very small amount of sand, but he has high ambition and he really wants to become one of the best sandmasters that there are. You also follow another character named Duchess Chrysalia? I don't remember. Chris is what the main character, Kenton, calls her. And they're from different sides of the planet and they have different cultures and everything like that. I really enjoyed this. I ended up giving it 4 stars, and I did a book review on this, which I'll leave in the card symbol and you can check that out if you want to. But if you want to see what some of the artwork looks like, it looks like this. And I just enjoyed it a lot. The next book I finished is The Elegance of the Hedgehog by Muriel Barbery. This one took me so long to finish. I think I started this, I don't even know, at the end of November or the beginning of December, and I just now finished it. It's a very slow book, so know that going in, but I did enjoy it. I think I ended up giving this 3.5 stars because I just didn't love it as much as I thought I was going to. This one follows a little girl who is planning her own suicide, and it also follows the concierge of the building which the little girl lives in. Both of them are outsiders and they have secrets that they're keeping. Obviously, the little girl is planning her own death because she doesn't think that living past a certain point is worth it, and the concierge is just lonely and is taking being complacent instead of being happy. So I really liked seeing the progression of the 2 characters and seeing how they interacted and seeing how their 2 storylines ended up weaving together throughout the story, but it didn't keep me enthralled in the book. It's only 300 and something pages, and I took over a month to read this, I think. So yeah, 3.5 stars. I then read The Menagerie, Dragon on Trial by Tui T. Sutherland and Carrie Sutherland. This is the 2nd book in the Menagerie series. I just figured out that this is not my favorite series. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars because what it does well. It's a very fun, adventurous, middle grade novel that keeps you entertained and keeps you reading quickly. I read this, I think, in one sitting, but it doesn't really have much substance other than that. So I ended up giving it 3.5 stars, but I did enjoy it, and I will finish the trilogy and read the 3rd one, but I'd much prefer her Dragon series, which is the Wings of Fire series, instead of this one. In the first book, there is a character named Logan who finds a griffin cub in his room, and then he discovers that there's this place called the Menagerie. That's the title of the series. And the Menagerie has a bunch of different mythological creatures, and Logan is now helping one of the people that are in charge of the Menagerie and trying to find the griffin cubs that had escaped. In the 2nd book, there's a different problem, but just as much danger and suspense and everything. And I really like where this took the overall story, and I'm curious enough to see what the 3rd book has in store. I then read the 2nd bind-up of Death Note, which is volumes 3 and 4 by Tsugumi Oba and art by Takeshi Obata. I really like Death Note. I think that if you're trying to get into manga, this is probably one of the more popular ones that booktubers read. When the main character signs a person's name in the book and has a picture of them in their mind, they end up dying within 40 seconds or something like that, unless you specify different details. I know a ton of people have read this one already, and I really enjoy it now. I think the 1st volume threw me off because the main character is very cold when it comes to the people that he's killing, and he doesn't really care that he's killing all these people. He thinks that he's doing the right thing. So I think that it shocked me a little bit because of how many people he was killing. But in these books, the suspense and him almost getting caught but then not getting caught is just like very just enthralling for me, and so I really like this series. I think I ended up giving the 3rd volume 5 stars and the 4th volume 4 stars because I just didn't like the 4th volume as much, but I'm hoping to read the rest of the series soon and let you guys know my full thoughts on the whole series by doing a book review for you. I then completed 12 Kings in Sharakhai by Bradley P. Bolio. I ended up doing a book review for this as well, which I'll leave in the card symbol, and you can check that out because with epic fantasy, I feel like the individual review really gives you a lot more information than I can give in these small little wrap-ups. But this one follows a girl named Cheta who has vowed to kill the 12 kings in Sharakhai. But the kings have been living for 400 years, and so there's a huge system of defenses in place so that they do not get killed. And so this book just follows Cheta in her quest to get her vengeance because the kings were responsible for her mother's death. Obviously the world is a lot bigger than that, and there's a lot more players as well, but I really enjoyed this one and I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. And check this one out if you are at all interested. After that, I read volumes 1 and 2 of Fairy Tale Ice Trail by Yusuke Shirato. I'm sorry. I ended up doing a book review for this as well, or a manga review rather, for this, which I'll leave in the card symbol. You can check that out. But this is a spin-off series for the Fairy Tale series. I do recommend reading this after you get Gray's backstory in the original Fairy Tale series, which in the manga is after volume 5. I can't remember what episode it is in the anime that you get his backstory, but it's pretty early on. I ended up giving the first volume 2 stars and the second volume 4 stars, and that is the complete series. It's just 2 volumes. So I'd say that if you're a really big fan of Fairy Tale, then it's worth it to pick it up just so you can know how Gray joins the Fairy Tale Guild. But if you don't love Fairy Tale, then I would probably not recommend it because there's really no point to pick up this series without that knowledge of all the other characters. After that, I read Soul Eater by Michelle Paver. This is the 3rd book in the Chronicles of Ancient Darkness series. I read and reviewed the first book, I believe, so I'll leave that up in the card symbol. And then I didn't love the second book as much, but then I ended up really loving this one. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. It follows a boy named Torak who finds out in the first book that he's able to communicate with a wolf pup. And then they go on different adventures and they have to save these native populations in his ancient native world. In the first book you follow mainly these woods type of native populations where they're adapted to living in forests and everything like that. In the second book you deal more with natives that live on islands, and so they have boats and they've adapted to eating a lot of fish and everything like that. And this one we deal with the native population that lives in the far north in the icy regions, and they have to eat a lot of fat and everything like that. And I really love how much research that Michelle Paver does into these books. She does a ton of different research on different native populations around the world to incorporate those different elements into her story, and so I really think you learn a lot about different native populations that would come from those type of environments. So I think for this one she did a lot of research with Native North American people like Inuits and stuff like that, as well as a couple of other populations, and she combined a lot of their different cultures to form the native population culture that lives in the far north in this book. So a lot of people will classify these books as like historical books. I just classified it as fantasy because there are some magical things going on. Obviously a boy can communicate with a wolf and everything like that, but I do really enjoy them and I do recommend them. There are 6 in the series and I just recently got the 4th book, so I'll be able to continue soon. And the 10th book that I read in 2017, ooh, that's weird to say, is Guardian by Alex London. This is the 2nd book in the Proxy duology. And then the first book, Sydney, the main character, is a proxy for someone, and what that means is that the rich and the privileged people are able to pay for someone else to take their punishments, and so Sid has to take the punishments for a boy named Knox. Early on in the novel, Sid ends up finding Knox and running into him, and then kind of kidnaps him, and then they go on a journey. In the sequel, obviously the events of the first book have a huge effect on this. It's a dystopian series, and this book was actually very natural to follow the first book. I was expecting something different actually, but this book really makes sense and is actually the sequel that it should have been. I didn't love it as much as the first book, but I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. This follows a character who is gay, so if you're looking for more gay dystopian YA series, this one is a good one. I think I read this right before Diversathon started, so I started a little bit early. As usual, I will leave links down in the description where you can check out all of these books or get them if you would like to. But that's going to be my first wrap up for 2017. If you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up and comment down below on any of the books that I've read. Have you read them? Do you have any thoughts on them? Do you have any suggestions based off of these books that you think I'll like? Leave anything you want to down below, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.